2015, the former United Nations Secretary General, Kofi Annan, said, "Eating insects is good for the environment and balanced diets." Indeed, there is mounting evidence that the use of insects for food and feed aligns perfectly with the context of sustainable food systems, for climate change adaptation, and for food and nutrition security. Edible insects are increasingly gaining popularity as an alternative source of protein to livestock meats. This is because livestock production accounts for 7.1 billion tons of carbon dioxide emissions annually, 43.3 billion hectares lost in forest land, 1.1 billion hectares lost in land for crop cultivation globally, and a water use which stands at 22,000 liters per kilogram of beef produced. On the flip side, the rearing of insects for food and feed accounts for more than 60% less greenhouse gas emissions and land use, which makes a strong case for the shift towards the consumption of edible insects. Over 2,000 species of insects are consumed globally by over 3,071 ethnic communities in the world. They are mostly harvested from the wild, and communities have to rely on their seasonality to enjoy these delicacies. In the case of Uganda, the edible grasshopper Ruspolia deferens is a major delicacy in most parts of the country. As the season sets in, entrepreneurs in this insect sector set up their trapping devices all over central and western Ugandan cities of Masaka, Hoima, Mbarara, Kabale, and even the capital itself, Kampala. In these areas, the insects are known to appear in large swarms. Senene, as the grasshoppers are locally known, are harvested twice a year between the months of June to August and November to January during the rainy seasons. The harvesting is done overnight, and the harvesting devices comprise of old oil drums, iron sheets, and bright 200-watt bulbs that are raised about 10 meters high from the ground. These trapping devices are meant to attract grasshoppers from kilometers away. Trappers usually light a fire underneath these traps to create smoke, which is alleged to sedate the insects and make them fall in the traps. Once the grasshoppers see the bright light, they fly towards it, hit the iron sheets, and slide down into the metal drums. On the inside, these drums are lined with edible oil and cassava flour, which prevents the insects from crawling out, although it cannot be proven that the oil is edible. As the traps get filled up, the insects are transferred into jute sacks and transported to the urban areas where they are marketed. Grasshoppers are transported as far as 200 kilometers to Kampala, which is the main marketing area. In Kampala, grasshoppers arrive in trucks in the wee hours of the morning to meet wholesalers who buy a sack of about 30 kilograms for about $50 or less, depending on the catch of the day. They in turn resell them to vendors and retailers who process and sell this delicacy. According to vendors at Nakasero Market in Uganda, processing begins by removing the extraneous matter, such as other insects caught together with the grasshoppers, then removing the wings and legs, which are considered inedible parts. After this, grasshoppers are laid out on trays and sold, while raw. But due to their short shelf life, vendors prefer to wash and deep fry these grasshoppers to increase their shelf life. A survey we conducted in Kampala on the food safety awareness of grasshopper vendors showed that majority of the vendors are women who are in the age bracket of 19 and 35, so they are within the youth age bracket. Majority of the vendors have stayed in the business for more than 9 years, indicating that it is a profitable long-term venture and not just a temporary source of income. However, just like in any other food sector, the question of quality and safety arises, which was the main focus of my MSc study. Grasshoppers are a nutritious snack. They have 43% protein content, 48% fat content, most of which is polyunsaturated, Over and above being able to counter protein energy malnutrition in vulnerable groups, research has shown that consumption of just 100 grams of grasshoppers contributes significantly to the recommended daily intake for other nutrients as well, such as iron, zinc, calcium, alpha-tocopherol, which is the precursor for vitamin E, niacin, riboflavin, among others. Being such a nutrient-dense food means that grasshoppers, if not handled properly, can serve as a good substrate for food microorganisms. During this study, we also analyzed about 40 samples of ready-to-eat boiled and deep-fried grasshoppers from vendors in Kampala. We investigated them for common food hygiene indicators such as Enterobacteriaceae, total aerobic bacterial count, and yeast and molds. All samples tested had average microbial loads that were beyond the acceptable limit for ready-to-eat marketed foods. Our study further revealed that most of the vendors had extremely poor knowledge of food safety, scoring just about 48% on the food hygiene and safety score. Using molecular biology techniques, we were able to identify the types of microorganisms that were present in these marketed grasshoppers. This spanned from antibiotic-resistant Staphylococcus species to mycotoxin-producing molds, among other pathogenic species such as Bacillus cereus. This raises alarm over the quality and safety of the grasshoppers, but as it stands, they may not be safe to eat. Edible insects, including these grasshoppers, are the sustainable diets of the future. They offer an excellent alternative to animal protein and can go a long way to helping the planet mitigate the devastating effects of climate change. But to ensure that the potential of edible insects is harnessed, first and foremost, we need to ensure their availability. This can be done through captive rearing of these insects, efforts which have been largely successful here at Isipe and Makerere University. Secondly, the safety of the consumer needs to be safeguarded. This can be done by training of vendors on good hygiene practices and safe food handling techniques. Our study recommends that public health departments like those of Uganda should train and test vendors and issue them with food handler certificates. A positive impact of our study is that it has highlighted the risks present in the senene industry, and our findings are already being used to inform the draft food standard for edible insects by the Uganda Bureau of Standards. We anticipate that soon the grasshopper industry will be regulated and consumers all over the world will be able to enjoy this nutritious insect snack.